We're almost to the end of the year and a lot has happened in our city. But before we ring in 2024, we want to take a moment to reflect. So today on CityCast Portland, producers John Notarianni and Giulia Fiaoni are joining me to remember the best and worst of the past 12 months, from notable local headlines to new bars and restaurants and everything in between. It's Thursday, December 21st. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Man, John, Giulia, we did it. We made it to the end of the year. It's happening.
Whew, we got here.
We did it.
Whenever we do any of these kinds of, retrospections where we're just like the best of, I literally can't think of one thing. Like it always happens. I have to go back and be like, what happened this year? Because all I can think of is like what happened 5 minutes ago.
Totally. I scrolled back through our calendar over the course of the year and looking at some of the stuff in January and February. It's like, we talked about that? Like that happened? Like what?
Totally.
I guess that's a caveat. If we miss something huge, we definitely want to hear from you and remind us. They're just like, remember when Portland became Beaverton? We're just like, did we miss that?
Forgot about that alien invasion that happened in February. Yeah.
But before we go into it, I was wondering, what was something new that you guys tried this year? Like, it could be Portland related, or it could just be like, I started doing yoga, which, props.
So I've always wanted to do this, but for the first time ever, I tried backpacking, and I did an overnight, 2-day, 1-night trip in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in Washington. Mm-hmm. It was a spot just about a 2-hour drive northeast of Portland. Tons of hiking trails, dozens of little meadows and lakes. It was really special, and I'll definitely be doing it again, but very much like a Portland activity, but I'd never done it before, so a highlight of my year.
That's so cool. John, have you gone backpacking?
I have, yeah. I've gone backpacking before.
I've never gone.
The hardest part for me is food. It's hard to figure out how to feed myself for 3 days. For me, this is something that actually got thrown into me because of the podcast. I actually made it out to wine country.
Oh, yeah.
That's your pick. You're like, it was so hard. Julia's like, I did this life-changing test about my own inner strength. And you're like, I tasted wine outside.
We had a whole thing on the show about how I hadn't gone wine tasting. So I was like, fine, I got to do this. And speaking of roughing it, I went out to Abbey Road Farm. And while I was there, I had some wine, but I also had potato chips and caviar.
Oh, yum.
Sitting out looking over the wine country. Oh, it was so great.
Beautiful.
I had freeze-dried food in bags for 2 days, which is better than you think it'd be. But anyway.
I do want to give you this, John, because this is the same show where it was discovered I never went to the Rose Test Garden, and guess what? Still haven't gone. So you did
2024.
Your thing. I know. Oh my God. Something new I tried this year was not doing the thing I said I was going to do, which is go to the Rose Test Garden. But I will in 2024. I'm going to be there every weekend testing roses. I don't know what they do.
You're going to be a regular.
They're like, oh no, here she comes again. So one thing I have tried this year, though, that I've been kind of working up to is I actually went out mushroom hunting successfully, because I have in the past tried to go mushroom hunting and just not found anything cool or understood how you're supposed to do it. It really is just a nerdy pastime of look at this weird mushroom I found. Let's see what it is. Oh, wow, this is deadly. It's just a fun look at here, activity. I did find some edible mushrooms, but I'm too baby to be I'm not going to do it.
That's halfway in between me and Julia's, actually. It's a little bit outdoorsy, a little bit bougie. It's right in the middle.
Is it bougie to go mushroom hunting?
I think it's a little bougie. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love this. I'm so glad you said this, John, because we're going to get so many mushroom hunters being excuse me, John Notarianni. And I'm just going to forward you every email. I'm just going to be boop.
Mushroom hunters, tell me all about it. And when you do email me, tell me your spots.
That's how you reel them in.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. It seems like we all accomplished a lot this year. Now, the next one that I was wondering we could decide on is what each of us thought was the biggest headline or the most notable headline of the year. Of course, city related. Does somebody want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I mean, I think that the story that just kept coming up in new ways this year was about housing.
Yeah.
I think this kind of got kicked in last year when Renee Gonzalez and Tina Kotek got voted into office. But like in between what's been happening at a state level with the governor's mandates to like boost production like crazy and then pushing some bills through the legislature that are going to, help try and prevent homelessness and fund new housing at like hundreds of millions of dollars worth. And then at a city level, it's been all about unhoused people and bans on unsanctioned camping, which they said there was going to be a camping ban. The policy was voted in June, went into effect in July, but they weren't enforcing it. And they said that enforcement was going to start in November, but then a judge freezed that, and it's still sort of ongoing. All that aside of Wheeler's giant tent camping sites. He had said initially that he was hoping to have 6 sites open by 2024. At this point, we have 1 site open, the Clinton Triangle site. And in October, they announced another one that they're intending to start up near St. John's. Hasn't come online yet. But yeah, I mean, just like back and forth of like all of these issues, trying to figure out how to house people. And it's going to be an issue going into next year as well, because the governor has said that it's going to be one of her main legislative priorities in 2024, hoping to spend even more hundreds of millions of dollars on housing production.
Yeah. I think this is probably a question for both of you or either of you, being that you've both lived in Portland for quite some time. Do you ever think that the camping ban will ever truly be put in place? Or is it going to be one of those things that will continue to just get thrown around and not implemented on a serious level?
I think it depends. I think if the other components of housing solutions kick in, it may not. I really do feel like this was a lot of like Mayor Wheeler being, look, we're doing something, but knowing full well we didn't have the resources to implement the actual laws. But they may just be implemented in areas where people have more, let's just say, liquid asset power. I feel like if it does get implemented, Julia, to answer your question, I feel like if it does get implemented, it's only going to get implemented in places where, people like the rich and powerful live.
Yeah, so still selective.
They're not going to send cops to like my neighborhood for some reason if, some stuff is happening. I just don't see it.
Yeah, totally.
Well, Julia, what was your headline?
Okay, so my headline, another one of those that just kept popping up in the news. Oregon voters passed Measure 110 in November of 2021. It not only decriminalized possession of small amounts of certain street drugs, but also created a pathway for addiction treatment and recovery programs funded partially by the state's marijuana tax revenue. But although it was put into effect in February of 2021, it's continued to just pop up in the headlines a ton this year. So I wanted to reflect on certain aspects of the developments on that front. One being a few months ago in September, the first Portland area detox center funded by Measure 110 opened in Southeast by an organization called Recovery Works. And they had hoped to serve around 1,200 people a year, and they seem to be on track with that, which is really awesome. But most notably, it's also the first drug withdrawal center in the Portland metro area to focus on fentanyl addiction specifically. But the second part of what's continued to be in the headlines and why I wanted to talk about it was the continued public criticism over rollout-related roadblocks and also just a lack of access to crucial drug treatment generally, especially in the shadow of the ongoing fentanyl crisis and related increases in overdoses over the past year. So much so, there is a growing list of public figures advocating to repeal the measure in the new year, and they've already filed ballot initiatives that could allow voters to overturn it in 2024. Legislators are gathering information and public comment in the meantime, aimed at making changes to the measure in the next year's short legislative session. We talked about this a bit in an episode a few weeks ago, but people are showing up and submitting testimony like in the hundreds. I know I just threw a lot at both of you, but how are you both feeling about Measure 110 going into the new year? What do you think will be the turnout with this?
I mean, I think it needs to be revised. I think the way that it is being implemented right now is clearly not working. But I do sort of worry about throwing the baby out with the bathwater and the possibility that we could just completely scrap it and go back to what we had before, which was a drug enforcement system that incarcerated people and was really racist and like didn't actually help people get clean either. My hunch is that these ballot initiative drives aren't real, that it's sort of just like a tool to put pressure on the legislature to reform the law in some way, but who knows?
I just wanted to say, John, that whenever I hear someone say, throw the baby out with the bathwater, I immediately start spiraling, wondering what the first instance was that someone decided to create.
I've never heard that phrase before.
Do you know what I mean? I'm always just like, what poor baby had to fucking be thrown out with the bathwater for someone to go, you know what, we shouldn't do that.
I got so distracted by that phrase.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with John in so many ways. I think what we're all feeling, this was not implemented correctly. But I also think that in order for it to be implemented correctly, we have to get our police force on the same ground of what this law is, because they think it's a very different law than everybody else. As they've been telling everyone, as they've been sharing their perceptions of what this law means in regards to their job. And so I feel like all the suggestions of where we're supposed to change this law, I'm like 100% on. There's not been something suggested where I'm like, well, that's a terrible idea. I'm like, yeah, people should not be allowed legally to do drugs in public. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that is illegal. Like no one's having sex in public. Do you know what I mean? Like there's things that you're like, yeah, that's not illegal, but like we all know, don't do that in public. Mm-hmm. Like there's children. Mm-hmm. We live in a society. Like I just want everybody. But yeah, no, I agree. I really do feel like I'm glad that people are pushing this, even if it's for the extremes of, completely getting rid of the law. I'm glad it's happening.
I mean, I guess I do still just fear, and this has nothing to do with Measure 110 or about drug addiction really, but I fear this being used as a wedge issue for people who have really conservative politics to sort of find their way into city government and campaign on people's fears and, leave us with a less tolerant, like more authoritarian local government, I think that we forget how close we were to having a Republican governor, and if we go too far in electing officials that talk strong about tough on crime, but like don't share the values that Portland celebrates, we could end up in a really different place in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Agreed. That is definitely something to be cognizant of going forward, especially during our mayoral race.
Your vote matters, damn it.
Damn it.
I'm like, we live in a society, and John's like, your vote matters.
These slogans.
We're going to find your slogan, Julia. Mine was a little more undercover in a sense of, I don't think it was like this huge headline, but for me, it was a huge headline because it has a lot of implications moving forward to the new year. And also to me, it shed some light on the mayoral race, which is going to be also a pretty big deal. It was just P-Bot. Just P-Bot. Just.
Yep.
Yep.
That's fair.
Everything from its $32 million general revenue shortfall for the next year, which is we're going to see a lot of shakeout from that, down to how Director Millicent Williams and Commissioner in charge Mingus Mapps were coming under repeated fire for their handling of some of our city's bike lanes, either undercover, making them less safe, or totally like just changing something that was perfectly fine because they didn't go through the proper channels of alerting their neighbors that, hey, this was going to happen. So like everything, it just seemed like a P-Bot shit show in a way that just really like stuck out to me. But not only that, I think the reason also I learned so much about it is because of the amazing reporting coming up from Bike Portland, specifically Jonathan Moz.
Yeah.
So I just big ups to his reporting. But if you're just like, what is she talking about? So much. Just like Google P-Bot in 2023 and just sit down with some popcorn. Like it's a ride.
I mean, and I think, talking about P-Bot can feel like a boring bureaucratic thing, but it's like, no, this is like the department that builds and maintains the roads and services that we need to get around every day, I mean, and again, aside P-Bot, like everything that happened at ODOT this year, it's been a bad year for bots and dots because there were all these giant projects that ODOT was going to be trying to launch that basically just like went nowhere because of political infighting as well. The I-5 bridge, that'll happen sometime in the future, maybe, but like probably not. Tolling pushed down the road. The Rose Quarter expansion pushed down the road. So yeah.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, more on what happened in 2023. I want to tell you one of the coolest gifts someone got for me. A few Christmases ago, my partner bought us both OMSI memberships. And it was so much fun. Like every OMSI After Dark, we make it a date night. And I even still have my pint glasses from Brewfest. And right now through January 7th, OMSI memberships are 15% off, on top of invitations to member-only events and discounts or even free passes for things like OMSI After Dark. There's always an exciting exhibit to experience. Like right now, you can learn all about our favorite yacht destroyers, at Orcas, Our Shared Future, or learn about the animal kingdom's coolest methods of self-defense at Staying Alive, Defenses of the Animal Kingdom. And let's not forget that a membership also gets you admission to their mainstay attractions like the planetarium and the USS Blueback, which is a real submarine you can explore. So spark your family's curiosity at OMSI, where there's adventure for visitors of all ages. Learn more at omsi.edu. That's omsi.edu. Look, we all know dating sucks. But what if I were to tell you I know of a less annoying way to meet a bunch of potential suitors of your desired sexual orientation and gender expression? I gotta win some kind of Portland award for that sentence. Anyhow, Lovely Dating is offering a new and better way to speed date. Their events are designed to feel casual, low pressure, and make connecting with singles in real life as fun and easy as possible. For one, the meetups are hosted at charming local venues like coffee shops and breweries. I think one meetup was even at a kava bar, and there's no weird host or name tags. Participants use descriptors like what you're wearing to find each other and receive fun text prompts throughout. And after each date, you can discreetly match or not. If a match is mutual, Lovely takes care of the rest. Could not be easier. So sign up and get dates at lovelydating.com. That's LUVVLY dating.com. That's LUVVLY dating.com. Well, I feel like we all got a little hot under the collar here, reliving some political traumas here.
Yeah.
What here, let's do it. I'm like, now let's do a silly one. Let's do a fun one. What were your best new bars / restaurants of the year? We had a lot of wonderful new openings, new spots. It doesn't have to be like it opened last year, but like that you discovered and you were so stoked to discover. Does anybody want to go first?
I can jump in. I spoke about this place during our Coziest Bars episode, and it's been only a month and a half since they've been open, but it's Dear Sandy on Northeast 28th and Sandy. They're a fabulous coffee bar during the day and a cocktail hangout at night. Right now, one of my favorite drinks is called a Slightly More Complicated Bitch, which is a mocktail, actually. And it's persimmon and lemon, and they have a cocktail version of it made with vodka. Both are solid. If you haven't gone yet, they have something for everyone. But to mention a new spot, one of my favorite restaurants that opened also not too long ago in the same neighborhood off of 28th and Burnside is Grana Pizza Napolitana. They opened up back in October, and they're known for their folded pizzas, which are 10-inch pizzas folded 2 ways into like a little triangle. And this spot I was a little skeptical of at first because it seemed kind of gimmicky, but I've gone back so many times and I've gotten roped in to the convenience aspect of it because I'll be running late to something, walking to where I'm going, and I'll just drop in and grab one and eat it while I'm walking. And the pizzas are just solid, even to go for dinner, to get the regular pizza options are very tasty.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard about Grana. You sent me a picture. I remember the first slice you bought.
Yeah.
And it looked really good.
I am a big fan of a walk-in pizza, so I want to check that out too. The restaurant that I wanted to talk about was Jeju, which is the new spot by Peter Cho, the guy behind Han Ok and Toki. Opened in June. I went there this summer, and like they are focused on whole animal butchery, you know? So you get this sort of Somme style spread of all these different meats, but like for a restaurant that was so focused on like the way that it's preparing its meat, it was a mostly vegetable forward affair. I just thought it was like really, really well done, and I really loved it. And like I feel especially poignant about it because we were all gonna go as a team a couple weeks ago, but then everybody got sick and we had to cancel our reservations.
I do really want to check that place out, though. I have not gone at all, and you're really selling it to me, John.
Yeah, for reals.
So I love that spot. My favorite new bar is Dream House. Dream House in the old Beach Street parlor location, opened by some people behind Porcano and Brass Tacks. It's like a house bar. So like you go in and you're in the living room, but then there's some rooms upstairs. Really super cozy place. They have like DJs almost 7 nights a week, but like playing just like really interesting atmospheric music a lot of the time. Just a really like wonderful, cozy, cool, not super fancy, but like very nicely done place.
John, as I know that you loved Beach Street, which was the bar that was there before, how does it compare to you? Does it still have those Beach Street vibes? Because, I mean, part of that was the fact that it was in a house and it felt like you were in a nice house. Like, how does it compare?
It feels really similar, you know? I wouldn't say that it's like exactly the same. There's been like a couple vibe tweaks. Like I think the food is better now. Like no shade on Beach Street, but like they're really doing some great stuff in that kitchen. I think that if you went to Beach Street Parlor and you liked it, you will not at all be disappointed.
Nice. Mine is a little interesting because I think if you've listened to this show more than once, you might know that I live in St. John's and that I love neighborhood spots. And I basically got a new one this year, and I'm really excited about it. It's becoming like a slow like Sunday tradition where my partner and I wrap up our week there and sort of prepare for what's coming. And it's this place called Mosaic Tap House. It's just beer, sake, and wine, no cocktails, but they share a kitchen with this Vietnamese street food place, and they're just making some of the most fun dishes to eat with beer.
Yeah.
If you guys remember, you may not, Julia, but there was this place called Pak Pak, and they had these like really famous, people love these fish sauce chicken wings.
Yum.
They're doing something similar, except they're making it with fried chicken, because I feel like I don't remember the Pak Pak wings like it was yesterday because it was so long ago, but I feel like they didn't bread the skin. I thought it was just like crispy skin, but what they're doing here, they're doing like a really crispy, like almost like Korean style fried chicken, but then they put this intoxicating fish sauce on it. It's so spicy, it's so sweet, it's so savory, and then they give you some daikon kimchi, to go with it, and it's just that with they have this Filipino like light beer. It's like the perfect match. It's just amazing.
That is a big claim. The heir to the Pak Pak wing is back. People have got feelings, man. There is going to be.
I want people to go and tell me. What do you think?
Yeah, I want to go.
Oh my gosh, I'm convinced. All right, that just went to the top of my list.
But not only that, it feels like already all the regulars that I would normally see, like at the Garrison or Slim's or the wine shop, I see them there too. And we've just expanded our sprawl, and I love that.
Yeah, I live not far from there, and like every time I go by, that place is busy, which is just so exciting for a new business to just come out the door swinging and like be full.
Well, I want to hear other people's best new bars, restaurants of the year that they discovered this year. But also, next one I wanted to talk to you guys about was like the most fun thing that you did in Portland, like the most fun, notable event. Do you guys have any contenders?
Yeah, I can jump right in on that. I mean, I think the thing when I look back at my year that really sticks out to me was the last night at the Doug Fir. In September. Legendary venue, is moving to a new spot, not too far away, but it is sort of the end of the era in this building at the Jupiter Hotel. And I got tickets to go to the last show there, which was Ural Thomas, who's just like so much fun live. And it was just I don't know, one of those times where you could just sort of feel the energy in the room, that like people were excited, but they were sad at the same time, and like feeling sort of nostalgic. And it was packed and it was loud. And you could sort of feel like once the music ended, everybody was a little bit hesitant to go back up the stairs because they all knew it was going to be the last time they were doing it. It was super memorable.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. What about you, Julia? What was your most notable event?
Yeah, my favorite event of the year was the Louie Louie 24-hour marathon, which celebrated the 60th anniversary of the infamous rock song Louie Louie, which we have a whole episode about, but I'll give a little recap for listeners who don't know what I'm talking about. So in October of 1963, 5 Portland teenagers recorded one of the most important songs in all of rock history in this shitty little recording studio. And today, it's known as the Kingsmen's version of Richard Berry's Louie Louie, and it was so unlike anything else that the FBI got involved and investigated the band at one point. So back in October of this year, over 75 Portland artists got together to play Louie Louie nonstop for 24 hours at an art gallery in the Central East Side. And I remember I dropped in on the way home from a concert that I had gone to. So it was already pretty late. It was like past midnight. And I walked into one of the most wild and wacky and wonderful scenes that I'd seen in Portland since I've moved here. And it was just so wonderful. I really couldn't stay longer than half an hour because I started to feel really crazy after a while just hearing the song over and
Half an hour hearing the song over and over.
But it was just like a fever dream. It was so ridiculous.
That's so funny. I must have just missed you there because I was there too. I was there like around 11, and it was definitely, you could tell that it was just like starting to go off the rails a little bit.
Gosh, and was it really loud in there for you too, John?
Oh, it was so loud. And
piercing.
like listening to the same song over and over again just like made me feel like I was going crazy in kind of a delightful way. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
The whole point of this marathon was that, of course, they're going to play Louie Louie over and over again, but it was like different interpretations, like who was playing what instruments, like what were the interpretations that you guys walked into?
A lot of just like sort of rocky garage versions of
Oh,
it. But I
gotcha.
did see the ASMR Louie Louie,
Oh.
which was really hypnotizing. It was so good. It almost like reminded me of Grouper, you know? She sort of had this like floating, like lilting voice. It was extraordinary.
Oh my God. That's exactly when people are just like, what does Grouper sound like? I'm like, imagine someone doing ASMR to the song Louie Louie. It's basically Grouper. It's pretty much Grouper. You're listening to her right now. That's amazing. Well, the one event that I think I'll be thinking about that to me just was like my 2023 was Dragathon.
Of course.
If you guys don't remember, Portland hosted a over 24-hour, almost 30-something hour drag performance. And we did it. Like, we won the Guinness World Record for it. Now Portland holds that record, which is amazing. But what was so special about it was that it took place at Darcel's, and, you know, Darcel passed away this March. And it felt like a huge celebration for drag performance in Portland, and just to see Poison Waters up there take that throne in a sense, and just everyone it took so much effort, and they like really wrangled some kind of big names to host, you know. People from Saturday Night Live were there, and like really well-known comedians. So it was just wonderful to be in this like space sharing, you know, this joy of drag. And yeah, it was that kind of night where like nobody wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Like after your shift, everybody just wanted to hang out and just be like, oh, I want to see all the performances. And the performances, oh my God, they were amazing.
No, it was delightful to see how much Portland sort of rallied around that. And like the Mercury sort of had a running live blog of everything that was happening, and sort of like watching the reporters become more and more delirious as they like got into the wee hours of the night was really delightful as well.
Yeah. I challenged someone, because we have like 4 minutes, and I challenged someone to an arm wrestling match, and I won, and it was a big deal. I mean, this might have almost made my like most notable Portland news headline, but Portland Mercury got it wrong and reported that I lost. And I just remember feeling like, oh, this is how politicians feel. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, I get it now. The media, you know? I was like, the media.
Fake news.
Can't trust him.
Well, wrap-up question. what are you guys planning on doing next year? Like, is there something new that you've decided, like, this is going to be it? Like, 2024, I'm blah, I'm rinsing my rice, which, by the way, everyone should.
I'm going to go back to something that I did a long time ago, which is crack in the ground, which is my favorite feature in Central Oregon that I haven't been to in many years. Do you guys know about crack in the ground?
Oh, I've heard about this.
No, but I just want to point out that in the notes that we had, John just wrote crack. And I was so confused because I was like, he's going to try crack.
Hasn't done it in a long time.
Crack in the ground, baby. Crack in the ground.
What is crack in the ground?
Crack in the ground is it's 2 hours southeast of Bend, and it's basically like a slot canyon. It's like this fracture in the ground, and it's just what it sounds like. You're sort of in this high desert, and then there's this place that you can get down into it, and you can just explore for miles. It gets like 70 feet high in some areas. It is like the closest I've gotten to like feeling like I'm on the moon. You're in a landscape, and then you're just in a completely different environment. Some areas of it, you sort of just feel like you're in a walk in a little canyon. Some areas are really kind of scrambly. It's super cool.
Is this like we have the Grand Canyon at home?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Not quite so Grand Canyon, but
Okay.
it's delightful. It's really, really cool. I recommend it.
I just imagine like, Mom, I want to go to the Grand Canyon. We have crack in the ground at home. Do you have Grand Canyon money?
And I love that it's called crack in the ground.
Yeah,
You know,
I know.
when somebody told me about it, they're like, you got to go to the crack in the ground. I'm like, what is it? They're like, it's a crack in the ground. And I was like, I didn't believe them. And I showed up and I was like, yeah, that's a crack in the ground.
Cool. I want to check that out. Thanks, John. What about you, Julia?
I also have my sights set on an outdoorsy destination for next year. Hopefully in the wintertime, I really want to go check out some Oregon or even Washington hot springs. It's something I've never done before, period. And I've heard they're super beautiful out here. So I have no plan on how I'm going to make it happen, but I'm hoping that I can pull it off.
I hear Julia, especially to do it during the winter, is really awesome.
Yeah,
Because of the steam, and you get to go out and experience these like two extremes.
totally.
Well, mine, aside from the Rose Test Garden, as we've discussed, is clammin' and crabbin'. And for those listening to the show might have remembered that Leif Gildersleeve from Flying Fish came on and kind of instructed us how we could, how one would go about clammin' and crabbin' in Oregon. And yeah, I'm really excited. I also wanted to go oystering, but he let me know that we don't do that here in Oregon. There's no wild oysters. I'd have to go to Washington. So, hey, maybe I'll do that too.
I love that all of us are just looking at like outdoor adventures. I feel like, for all the time that we spend sitting in front of microphones, working at computers, like 2024 for us is like, let's get outside. Let's go see what's going on in Oregon beyond our little home studios. It's super cool.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it, John.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out. I'm really looking forward to 2024, talking more news, talking more places to eat, talking more things to do with y'all. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for making us part of your routine this year. And hopefully we'll see more of you as well in 2024.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for a great year.
Well, that's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.